All right, how's it going, everybody? How's your Sunday afternoon? Hopefully, everything's going great for y'all. We are in the third quarter of the Dallas game, so I thought I was going to be able to do this at halftime, and I wouldn't have to miss their loss because they'll find a way to lose to Detroit. Of course, they will. All right, so this video is about who has a shot of making the Big 12 championship game. And as I went through everything, I thought, man, this is really wide open, and it's a lot less wide open than I thought, honestly. And you'll see what I mean as I discuss this. But if you got three losses, I'm eliminating you from the race. If you get three conference losses, rather. So the six teams I have here have two losses or less in the Big 12. And I'm going to rank them as far as what I have them in the power rankings, as opposed to who I think has the best shot of getting to the Big 12 championship game. Not who's going to win it, not who I think the best team is, but who has the best shot of getting there. So as far as my power rankings that I updated earlier today, we will start from the bottom and move our way up. So Texas Tech, they only have two conference losses: Baylor, Kansas State, University of Texas, Oklahoma State University, and then TCU. In that order, those are the ones that I have with the best shot to get there. Okay, so now I'm going to give you some pros and cons for each of the teams. Okay, so Texas Tech, what's some of their pros? Okay, one of the pros is that involving this specific list, in other words, the top tier of the Big 12, they only have to face two of those teams. Most everybody else on this list has to face three, except for one. We'll talk about them later. But Texas Tech only has to worry about, well, they got to worry about all the games, but as far as on this list, they have to play Baylor and TCU. Other than that, they should have easier games coming the rest of the season. So they got Baylor coming this week and then TCU the next week. And after that, they should have a pretty easy ride. Now, not only will I talk about the games, I've even put predictions down of who I think will win every single game here. So for the five remaining games for each team, one team has 4 games remaining because Texas is on a bye. We'll get to that later. So I have them at the bottom of my rankings. Do I have them at the bottom of this list? No, not necessarily. I do not. So in other words, I said I will give you predictions on who I think will win each game. Okay. So this coming week, maybe my mind will change, but right now, I think at home in Lubbock, I think Tech will beat Baylor. I hate to say that, but I think I trust Tech a little bit more. And I don't know exactly what to see out of Baylor, but I don't want this video to take forever, so I'll just kind of run through these as quick as I can. I think Tech will beat Baylor. That'll give them well, never mind that. Then they'll be facing TCU in Fort Worth. I have them losing that one. And then 3 remaining games against Kansas, Iowa State, and Oklahoma. I think they win those games. In other words, I have their conference record at 6-3. That would put them at 9-3, I believe. No. 8-4, I think. I think I'm right about that. I think they lost a conference game to North Carolina State. So that would put them at 8-4 for the season, inconsequential for the conference standings. I have them at 6-3. Now I've got 2 teams that I think will finish 5-4. So even though I have them at the bottom of this list, they're going to move up at least 2 spots, in my opinion, if I'm right. So Baylor, as I just stated, I think they lose to Texas Tech. I think they will beat Oklahoma in Norman. I think they will surprise, maybe an upset. I think they will beat Kansas State in Waco. I think they will lose to TCU in Waco. But another surprise, I think they'll beat UT in Austin. But that finishes them off conference record-wise at 5-4. So that would be a worse conference record than Texas Tech. That's what I see playing out. Okay, so the probably the biggest surprise would be Baylor over UT because UT seems to be resurgent a little bit, and Baylor seems to be trying to find themselves. Well, I trust Aranda will have our defense playing better at the end of the year as opposed to the beginning of the year, much like last year. I trust that they will find some way to improve there. And I'm really, really impressed with our passing game. By the time we get to the last game of the season, which this is, we should be a very dangerous team. And on top of that, we're getting Khalil Keith back. We should have Tay McWilliams back, our starting running back. You already seen what Richard Reese can do. We're stacked in the running back room, or at least we will be. We've got 2 injured right now, Squirrel Williams and Tay McWilliams. But we still have Quaylon Jones. We still have Richard Reese. And I think they'll be healthier. The other 2 that are injured will be healthier by the end. Plus, we got Khalil Keith coming back. We used to run a lot behind him. That's going to make a big difference. And our passing game is already getting there. It's already becoming a dangerous team. In other words, look out for Blake Shapen next year, and look out for him the rest of the season. Didn't pass a lot yesterday against Kansas. I'm guessing it was because of the wind and the wind gust. 17 miles per hour with 22 mile per hour gusts. So I guess that's why they went running game, and thankfully they were able to pull that off against Kansas. Anyway, to the next team, we got Kansas State. Now, I'm not giving them a lot of love here, and it's for 2 reasons. One is they're playing with a backup quarterback right now, and by the time they get their starting quarterback back, well, his name is still going to be Adrian Martinez, and I just don't have a lot of faith in him. He can be spectacular at times, and he can just absolutely disappoint you if you're a fan of his team. And I think that's going to happen. So that said, right now they're 3-1 in conference, but I do not see them finishing that way. I've got them losing to Oklahoma State this week, and then losing to UT, and then losing to Baylor at home. But I have them beating West Virginia and have them beating Kansas. So that would put them at a 5-4 conference record, tied for the bottom of this list with Baylor. Now on to UT. Okay, so here's a big pro for Texas. They are the only team on this list that still has a bye. So there's one less possibility of a loss. And that's going to play out well for them. But out of the 4 remaining team games that they do have, 3 of them are on this list. So that's not going to be the easiest thing in the world. They're going to play Kansas State. I have them beating Kansas State in Manhattan. I have an upset here. I'm pretty sure this will be an upset. I have them beating TCU. I think they can do it. I think Texas is the right type of team to punch TCU in the mouth. And I think they can match them offensively, absolutely. And they have a good defense as well. To me, it's going to be very evenly matched. It'll just be a little bit of the Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, which Texas team shows up. Well, this is going to be in Austin, and I'm predicting a victory. I think they will be the team to beat TCU this year. I don't think TCU will be undefeated. So I'll give Texas some love there, even though they're going to be mad at me for me predicting a loss to Baylor, but that's just my opinion. After that, I have them beating Kansas, and then the last game of the year, I have Baylor beating them in Austin. That gives them a 6-3 conference record, which would tie them with Tech, but just outside of the last 2, the top 2, because I have them both finishing better than a 6-3 conference record. And that's the big advantage here is, okay, so you got TCU undefeated right now. They're 4-0 in conference. So they got to lose, they got to lose twice and then hopefully lose a tiebreaker to, any of the remaining teams. That's a lot to ask for. So TCU is almost very solidly solidified in the driver's seat. It absolutely looks that way. It's going to be hard to knock them out because they're really going to have to start losing when they haven't shown that they know how to lose yet. They have 3 tough games, and I'll save them for last because I have them at the top of my power rankings. So let's talk about Oklahoma State. If you think TCU is solidified, check this out. Out of the 5 remaining games, only 1 game against somebody on this list. So that's twofold right there. Not only does that tell you, okay, well, they only have one iffy, tough game left? Well, that also means that they knocked all their tough games out and they're 3-1 in conference. The only one they lost to is TCU. They've got wins over Texas Tech, Baylor, and the University of Texas. So not only are they ahead of you, but they got the tiebreakers over the teams that are going to challenge. So, when I really got down and sat down to do this, I'm like, well, crap, it's going to be really hard to unseat TCU or Oklahoma State at this point. And that's just exactly where we're at. Can it happen? Of course it can happen. But, it's just got to happen. Right now, it clearly looks like the easiest route is going to be Oklahoma State and TCU. So let's talk about their remaining schedule for Oklahoma State. They're 3-1 in conference, the one loss being to TCU. They don't have to worry about a tiebreaker against TCU. They just have to have the second best record. So you've got Kansas State. I have them winning at Kansas State. You've got Kansas. I have them winning at Kansas. Both of those games are on the road. I think they beat both of the Kansas schools. I have them beating Iowa State. I have them beating Oklahoma University in Norman. And then I've got them beating West Virginia. I've got them going undefeated the rest of the way. They clearly look like the better team, and they're beating, the best competition in the Big 12 other than TCU. I have no reason not to have faith in them. For whatever they lost on defense, results-wise, they haven't lost a whole lot. They're still a very good defense, maybe not a dominant defense, but they're still a very good offense with a very experienced quarterback who isn't putting it all on himself to carry the team. That's never truly been who Oklahoma State was. I don't believe. I don't remember that in the Mike Gundy era. And they're not relying on him to try to win all the games, and that will play out better for them, I believe. So you mix a good offense and a good defense, and I see them not losing again. I think they're going to end up 11-1 and back in the title game. TCU, I do not have them going undefeated the rest of the way. I think they've got one loss. We've already talked about it, but let's go through their schedule. I've got them at West Virginia. I think they're going to beat West Virginia. It could be close. It could be a big blowout. Depends on West Virginia, which way they want to lose, but I think they will lose. Then you've got Texas Tech. I think TCU will beat Texas Tech. I wouldn't be surprised if they lose that, but I think they'll beat them. Then you've got the University of Texas in Austin. That's the one I'm predicting a loss. I don't think, as good as TCU has looked, that they're going to be an undefeated team. I don't see that. Baylor's going to come into Fort Worth. No. I'm sorry. TCU is going to travel to Waco to play Baylor. I think they will beat Baylor. And then TCU finishes off the season at home against Iowa State, and I think they win that game. So 4-1 the rest of the way. I also have them going in conference play 8-1, which would tie them with Oklahoma State University. That's who I believe will make it to the Big 12 championship game, Oklahoma State and TCU. Let's see. So either one of those teams wins, and if I'm right, if they're both 11-1, and whoever wins would be 12-1, man, that's a hell of a case for the playoffs. Unless there's going to be 4 undefeated teams left. And I sort of doubt that. The SEC, I think, is going to kind of eat itself a little bit. That's how it seems. It seems like they got a lot of highly ranked teams. So how many of them can go undefeated? Well, the answer is 1 because they have a conference championship game. So they can only have 1, but that doesn't mean that they won't try their best to put a second or a third team in the playoffs. But if you've got a 12-1 OSU or a 12-1 TCU and their only losses are 2 highly ranked teams, and under my scenario, that would be the case. OSU's only loss would be to TCU. TCU's only loss would be to University of Texas, which would be highly ranked by that point, I believe. Well, that's one hell of a resume. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe we do have a playoff team, and it could be the winner of that. If I'm right about both of those teams being the ones to go, if I'm right about their records heading into that game. That's what I got for you. That's how I think this is going to play out. Those are the scenarios, the best I could come up with of what it would take for each team to make it. And I hope y'all enjoy. I just saw before I started this video that the AP Top 25 just came out. So I'm going to end this video. Then I'm going to do another one. I'm going to do a reaction video and talk about where all of our teams have landed in the AP Top 25. Without further ado, sick 'em, baby.